In the last video, we just got Material UI installed into our front end. We also went over the default theme that Material UI is going to provide for us with a lot of different styles and some different functionality. In this video, we're going to take a look at the design file that we went over in our project overview and see how we can turn that into a Material UI theme that is going to really simplify and speed up our development. Let's head on over to Adobe XD to check it out. Alright, so I'm here in the code editor actually, and before we set up our theme, we have to actually get it configured in our Gatsby project. So at the end of the last video, we also installed the Gatsby Material UI plugin. So make sure you're in the front end folder of your project, and let's open up the gatsby-config.js file where we added our Strapi configuration. Right above the Gatsby plugin for Strapi and underneath the React Helmet plugin, let's go ahead and we'll use backticks and then add a comma there already. And let's go ahead and add right here the Gatsby-material or Gatsby-plugin-material-UI. All right, and that's all we need to do. Go ahead and hit save to get Material UI properly rendering in our Gatsby project. So this will make sure all our styles are applied correctly, but now we need to actually set up our project for us to add a custom theme. The way this works is by setting up a theme provider that wraps our entire application, and then whenever we use a Material UI component within our application, it will go up to that theme provider to find the theme with our styles. Gatsby actually provides to us an API for setting up certain components that we want to wrap our entire site. So this is perfect for exactly what we want to do, setting up our theme for the entire application. So the first thing we need to do is open up gatsby-browser.js. And again, this is just in the root of your front end folder. And here we're going to need to import whatever we want to wrap our whole application and then tell it that that's what we want to do. So let's actually go ahead and in the source folder and then in the components folder, go ahead and create a new folder called UI. Okay, and we're actually just going to move all these other components into the UI folder. All right, so header, image.js, layout.css, layout.js, and SEO.js, move those all into the UI folder under components. All right, and actually we can go ahead and delete the layout.css because we're not going to need that at all. We can also go ahead and delete this page-2 under the pages folder using -typescript.tsx because I don't know TypeScript, so we won't be using it in this course. And we can go ahead and delete their default images inside of the image folder. All right, let's go ahead, get rid of all those. We're going to be completely setting up this from scratch. So now in the UI folder under components, let's go ahead and create a new file. And let's call this our root-wrapper.js. All right, and inside of here, we can define a component and a structure that we want to wrap our entire application. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, just like with any component, is import React from React, and then we'll import our first Material UI component. We'll import, and then we'll destructure this out, the theme provider from @material-UI/core/styles. Okay, and we will always destructure out the components from core/styles, but you don't have to destructure the components from just Material UI/core. So you can do just import button from @material-UI/core/button because button is coming directly from core. But if we want theme provider out of styles, we have to destructure it. Okay, so go ahead and destructure out our theme provider from Material UI core/styles, and then we will import theme from and do /theme. And this is going to be inside of the same folder. So just real quick, come over to the UI folder, create a new file called theme.js. And we'll go ahead and build that out in just a second. But let's go back over to root-wrapper. And now it's going to find the theme within the folder. And now we just have to export a component using the theme provider and passing in the theme to wrap the rest of our application. So we can do this by export default, and then we can just use an arrow function. So open up an arrow function like that. And then here, where we would normally have our props being received, we can go ahead and destructure out of the props our element. Okay, so this root wrapper, because we're setting it up through Gatsby, is going to get past our application under the element prop. Okay, so we then need to return, and we can open this up with parentheses for a multi-line return statement, and we will return the theme provider passed with the theme prop, and then that'll be set to our theme that we imported. And then inside of the theme provider, we'll use curly braces to inject some JavaScript into this JSX, and we will inject the element that we get passed containing the rest of our application. So this will now render all of the other components, all the rest of our application, inside of the Material UI theme provider being passed in our theme. And so now we can set up the theme.js file and have our styles applied. We need to finish setting up the root wrapper though, so we can go ahead and save this. And I'm not sure why it's giving me an error right there. Oh, it's because I forgot the from keyword. Import theme from /theme. There we go. And when I save, it'll auto format that to clean it up a little bit. Okay, so now we've got our theme provider wrapped around our entire application. So let's close out of root wrapper and go back to gatsby-browser.js. Now we can go ahead and import our root wrapper from, and then we'll go into the /source folder /components /UI /root-wrapper. Okay, so we'll import the root wrapper here in gatsby-browser.js, and then we will export the constant wrap root element equals root wrapper. And that is going to tell Gatsby through the gatsby-browser config file that we're in right now, it's going to tell it that we want to wrap the root element of our site with the root wrapper. And that is going to set up the Material UI theme provider for all the components that we use inside of our application. Let's go ahead and save this. And we're actually going to copy these two lines and then go into gatsby-ssr.js and paste those and save as well. So what we did here, the SSR config file, the gatsby-ssr.js, this is going to apply configuration to the statically generated files, or the server-side rendered files. They kind of interchange those, but we talked about the distinction earlier. But essentially, whenever our files are being created at build time by Gatsby, it's not in a browser environment. And so this will just make sure that even in that environment, we're still going to be generating our correct styles in Material UI through the theme provider. And so this file just allows us to make sure we have that set up for that environment, as well as the Gatsby-browser for obviously once the application is rehydrated as a full React application inside of the browser. So that's the distinction between the two, but we can go ahead and close these out because that was everything that we needed to get Material UI up and running in our application, and now with a custom theme.